Here at the IMF headquarters in Washington, D.C., I have with me the Deputy Director of the Asia and Pacific Department of the International Monetary Fund, Sanjay PANTH. Thank you very much for agreeing to record this interview with me. I think it's very important for us in Sri Lanka to understand what the IMF has to say about Sri Lanka's progress and the current circumstances. We've heard from the Managing Director, the Asia Pacific Department Director as well, about the ongoing uncertainties, the vulnerabilities that global economies face, and especially small economies as Sri Lanka. And in Sri Lanka, there is now ongoing debate regarding fiscal consolidation, balancing the need to protect growth and livelihoods. Is there help from the IMF too, or how must authorities strike the balance between fiscal discipline and also economic recovery, reform and growth without stalling recovery? Are there any risks to sustaining momentum into 2025 and beyond?
On the issue that you raised, I think it's very important that when you have fiscal consolidation, it is done in a way that's consistent with social and political feasibility as well, because you need the buy-in of the population, you need the population to be committed to the reform program as a whole. It's not just the government. And to that extent, I must say, Sri Lanka is a remarkable story. How the entire population has come together from a very deep crisis, has gone through a very painful period of adjustment, and now they're beginning to feel the fruits of the hard years. Things are turning around, things are improving. After all the pain, after everything that the country has gone through, this is the moment now to, in a sense, consolidate the gains that have been made so far and continue on the progress going forward. In many ways, the hardest part is behind you now. You talked about fiscal consolidation. The primary balance of the medium-term program is within reach. Revenues have picked up and are doing very well. So the key is to avoid complacency and to make sure that these issues are sustained going forward so that the fiscal situation is amenable to providing opportunities for growth, opportunities for greater economic participation. For example, capital spending is a very important component of the fiscal, and you need revenues for that going forward. So I think the biggest risk in many ways, and this is not about Sri Lanka, this is what we've seen in many programs, but also in the case of Sri Lanka in previous programs, is to stay the course, wait until completion and not roll back the
Sri Lanka is at the point where structural reforms must translate into private sector confidence and investment. How can IMF-supported programs better align with measures that attract sustainable growth and private capital into markets like Sri Lanka? Are there any reforms needed to address FDI bottlenecks that exist within our markets?
In general, the best way to attract FDI and capital into the country requires about 3 or 4 things. You need continued macroeconomic stability, you need to have predictability and continuity of policies, and you need to have transparency. And again, the Sri Lanka program, the homegrown program that Sri Lanka has, embodies all of this. We just talked about macroeconomic stability. You've achieved a lot going there. In terms of policy continuity and predictability, the government is continuing the reform program going forward. And then on the last part, on the transparency, the governance framework that we have, that we've worked together as part of the program, is very important going forward. What people need for investment is to feel that their investment is fair, it's transparent, and that it's a level playing field. One thing I think that is not a good way to attract investment, because it's not always the best investment, not sustained investment, is through tax exemptions. So just giving tax exemptions themselves don't work. And again, here Sri Lanka is making a lot of progress. We're looking at the Port City Act, we're looking at the other act as well together to make the whole policy more predictable, transparent, and also ultimately in the interest of the Sri Lankan population.